Our girl is destitute.
What conspiracy theory do you have?
You're the Feyre.
I'm Feyre. He hates Tamlin. He's also a bit of a petty bitch.
And yet, she decides, let me just shoot my shot and see it. I'm like, girl. Hey, spoiler friends.
Yay. Hey, Cereal Squad.
Cereal Squad.
Woo, woo, woo.
I wish I was drinking tea earlier because I realized this is so sad. As we've established, Corryn and I are professional yappers.
Yeah.
But I started to notice after we would like record episodes, like the next day, I started to feel like a sore throat. And for a couple of weeks, I'm like, oh, am I getting sick from just like exhaustion and doing too much? I'm like, no, it's literally just the talking.
Which honestly is kind of hilarious to me because I know how much you talk like normally.
I know.
And so I'm just like,
I kind of feel a little defeated. Like I feel like my powers have like
your yapping
dwindled.
powers have
have
dwindled.
If I were a high lady, right? It's the end of this book and Feyre's dead and I had to give her a little ball of my power.
Yeah.
It would be yapping.
Yeah.
And I'd be in this exact situation. I'm like, why is my throat sore?
Damn, Feyre took all my powers. That bitch.
I'd wage a war just so I
wage
could
a
get
war.
my yapping powers.
I mean, all the other fuckers want to. Oh God, it's always that's so hilarious to me. This week, chapters 19 and 20. Quick recap, I would say, is basically 19 is the gallery. Get some sexy scenes in the garden. We get some dirty limericks in the forest. We get the Attor. And then chapter 20 is Calanmai. Beginnings of Calanmai, with the chapter ending with us finally meeting our sweet baby Rhys. We're so mean. We stop it there.
I know. We're evil. We're evil little bitches. We get, I would say, what's arguably the most famous quote of the entire series.
Yeah.
Finally.
Which, isn't it funny actually how people have the quote that a lot of people say is like, there you are, Feyre darling. And that's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of people
they add
say
Feyre
that.
darling?
Yeah. And the Feyre darling comes in much later in the series.
I don't think it comes in until Mist and Fury. I don't think he ever says it in
so
this book,
I've seen some people like put those two together and I'm like, no. The first one is there you are. Like
yes.
that's the first one, which is just yes. Here she is.
She is.
But yeah, dude, 19.
19 is a lot. There's a lot of shit that happens.
There's a lot of information. I feel like everything else that happens, it's not really info dumpy. It's just like,
yeah.
I mean, Feyre finally getting to paint.
So good.
Oh God. It's so healing. And especially when you know how much the painting, like throughout the series, like really opens her up as a person. It's how she processes so much. Yep. It's how she processes that Rhys is her mate. It's how she processes her sad life with her family. Like, and so to see the beginnings of it is just so fun. And I also just love this routine that starts. And I know I said it in the last episode, but like, I just love this idea of her like covered in paint and, you know, running out to get a quick bite with the boys and then going back. And like, it reminds me of how in Mist and Fury, like Tamlin is just like, I want to see you like covered in paint again when she's like not painting anymore because of Under the Mountain. And like, it just pulls at you, you know?
It does. There's something in this part of the chapter that really struck me. And it made me both, I don't know if happy, but it really resonated with me. So on 167, Feyre asks Tamlin, why would you do anything this kind? And he says, It's been a long time since there was anyone here who appreciated these things. I like seeing them used again. He's referencing the gallery because they're in the gallery. It really made me realize, and I feel like we've touched on this before, but I don't know if we've like ever explicitly said it. I think this kind of encapsulates the purpose of Tamlin and Feyre's life. And I think he's here to soften up her hardness so that when Rhys enters her life, she can accept Rhys. Like, he's a practice boyfriend, if you will, which is like not like I'm not trying to diss him. Like,
No.
I truly am not. I think this is really common. Like, I think a lot of people go through this where they think they're gonna end up with one person and they don't. And being with that person, we actually might have talked about this last week. Like,
Yeah, we did.
it leads them to the person they're meant to be with because they wouldn't have basically softened to them or whatever it is. And I think like this quote really, really stood out to me for that reason. For all the shit that we give Tamlin, like he does really care about Feyre and her happiness, and her happiness makes him happy. And this is just going into some theory territory. You know, we're big proponents of the Tamlin redemption arc book theory. I think that if we get that book, or even just like a Tamlin redemption arc in some capacity, which that I think is probably going to happen, I think Feyre kind of softens him up too for whatever the end of his journey is going to be, right? Because we've seen in all the chapters before, like he's a beast.
Yeah.
Right? Like he is a beast. And this is the first time, like even with Lucian, we don't really see him joking around and like having a good, like being bros, right? Like it's all business. It's all we gotta keep the borders secure. We gotta, you go and be an emissary and blah blah blah. We never see him have playtime. And that's actually something we talked about in the non-spoiler section, is like this idea of playtime.
Yeah.
And this is kind of his time to play, is to be with Feyre and watch her enjoy life, right? And I think that's gonna come back into play for Tamlin in future books.
Yeah. I mean, I really hope so, because I do think that that's a huge reason as to why it's so hard for Tamlin to let her go, and why he gets so intense about protecting her, is I just think she is such a representation of his joy.
Yeah.
When you feel like your happiness is so attached to one specific person, and that person goes away or doesn't want you anymore, like that's fucking brutal. It's hard, dude. Because you have to figure out who the fuck are you then without that. It's not only attached to joy, it's also like, I feel like she represents this whole new possibility of life for him.
Yeah.
Because it's like we talked about in the last in the spoiler-free episode of like, she gives him something else to focus on besides just being a high lord. I mean, kind of what you were saying, like it's like he actually gets to just like discover what makes him happy. And unfortunately, it's that slightly unhealthy thing of that it's healthy but unhealthy, right? Of like making her happy makes him happy. Right. But that also means his happiness is attached to her happiness, which it can be a double-edged sword. If anyone's ever been in like a very serious relationship, you know how kind of sketchy that can be.
Yes.
So it kind of immediately shows this sort of dangerous isn't the right word, but
it's something, because this is something that I think gets talked a lot about these days, especially because like everyone is in therapy and like kind of talk has learned the languaging around this. I think where I kind of personally settle in terms of this subject is it's good in particular doses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's about balance, right? Like obviously seeing your partner happy should make you happy. Like that would be weird if it didn't.
Yeah, it'd be very weird.
You can't. Yeah, and even if it's a partner you spend the rest of your life with, right? Like your partner won't necessarily be there every single day for whatever reason, work, life, whatever. Your partner might die before you die. Like whatever it is, like you can't have all of your happiness reliant on your partner. And I think that is what that's what Tamlin's fault is
There it is.
he puts all the stakes in Feyre.
There it is. Yep.
And that's what destroys him.
Exactly.
And what's funny, as you were talking about this, it made me kind of realize, like, Nesta becomes Lady Death in Silver Flames. I think Feyre is Tamlin's Lady Death.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, Tamlin does go through a metaphoric death, right?
Absolutely.
Like, who he is, who he's identified as his basically entire life, or at least since he's become High Lord, that dies.
Yep.
He has to become a new person and be reborn, right? And we see that in Akawar when he saves Rhys's life, right? Like, that is a form of rebirth, right? And hopefully we're going to see him continue. It's so funny when we were talking about the whole play thing in the last episode, I was thinking about how Feyre is going through a similar process of like a metaphoric death of like who she thought she was has had to die, and she's now being reborn into the new Feyre. And part of that, if you think about like literal birth, you're a wee baby.
A wee baby.
And then you grow up to like toddler or so age, and you start to do what? You start to play, right? And I'm hoping that Tamlin gets a similar arc where it's like he's now kind of going through this rebirth process, and hopefully he'll find that play again and lead a happier life.
Yeah. I hope so, because it is really, I think we definitely talked about it in the last spoiler episode, but like I'm still so surprised with how we're treating Tamlin.
I know.
I mean, like I'm kind of proud of us in a way, because there's there's some like emotional maturity that I feel like we're showing, which is like kind of cool, a little hair flip. But it's but I think it also really I think it more comes down to just like Sarah J. Maas's writing of just like it's really hard to read this book and not be reminded that it's a lot murkier, this feeling towards Tamlin. Like, there is a reason why we all fell in love with him in this book. Like, there is a reason. And we're not all fucking idiots. You know what I mean? Like, she created someone that we all were kind of ready. The more we go through this, the more I, like, really hope that Tamlin gets a redemption arc. Like, it's so weird. I'm just shocked. Shocked, I tell you. But it's funny. What I wanted to bring up, we get another dream.
Yeah.
Where there's a shadow.
I didn't clock that.
Yeah, so it's the horrible pale woman ripping me to shreds, all watched over by a shadow I could never quite glimpse.
Right.
So we get another
shadow daddy.
Another shadow daddy moment. And it's so wild, honestly. I can't believe like
how many times he's actually there.
How many times he's actually there
before we see him.
Yes, and it's just, God, it's so, I love it when books have Easter eggs like this that you never would have noticed before. Like, it's so awesome. And also it's just like still terrifying that she's like still dreaming about Amarantha. Like, ugh.
Right. Well, on the subject of Rhys, actually, I want to bring up a quote on page 169. So Feyre is now painting. We're so happy for her. And she says, she's talking about finally getting to paint. She says, I never let anyone see it, no matter how much Tamlin prodded and Lucian smirked at my paint-splattered clothes. I never felt satisfied that my work matched the images burning in my mind. Which, and maybe, I'll find this out when we reread Mist and Fury, but I find it interesting. Maybe it might even come up in this book, but I find it interesting that she's embarrassed to show her work to Tamlin. Now, mind you, I know she hasn't painted in a long time, so she's practicing, right? But it's just that, like, maybe it's fair, maybe it's not that I'm doing this, but like this, like, comparing Rhys and Tamlin, right? I think, like, Feyre won't show Tamlin these paintings she's made on canvases, right? But then in Mist and Fury, she goes and paints Rhys's cabin, where he's obviously going to see it, right?
Right.
And I think just think it's interesting,
Gavel
time, let's go.
Devil's advocate gavel.
I want to get you a gavel with 2 little like horns on it.
Oh, perfect. That would be brilliant. I mean, do I like do I just start like waving my dragon around? It's like,
Yes.
but I realize this is a podcast. People need
Wrong series.
And don't you love that I just have this
I mean,
little
I'm not
dragon
shocked.
around?
I'm not
Yeah.
shocked.
Yeah. I bought it out of Michael's. It makes me happy. Anyway,
Nice.
sits on my desk. Okay. She is in such a different place with Rhys when
Yes.
she paints the cabin
Yes.
than where her relationship is with Tamlin right now.
Sure.
So, yes, I see where you're going.
Yes.
I do feel like you may be kind of doing the Ariel thing.
I did give the caveat.
You did. No, you did. You absolutely did. You absolutely did. And like, this could absolutely be still like a point that maybe like she was kind of making here.
Yeah.
But I do think that those are really difficult moments to compare just because she's in such a different place with Rhys at that moment. She is actively battling this like realization that like she does love him, but also that apparently he's her mate. And
well,
so
I was
like,
gonna say, remember, she's pissed at him in that
she's
moment.
really mad at him.
So I'm gonna devil's advocate, you're devil's advocate.
All right, bring it on. Double down, baby girl.
I think, and this happens, I feel, a few times where like even when she's pissed at Rhys, because it happens throughout the series, even after they realize they're mates,
it happens when they're married. It happens
when they're married. There's still a level of vulnerability she allows herself to be with him. And I think that's more of what it is. Whereas with Tamlin, I don't think she ever really reaches that level of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like she does, she gets naked in front of him and they have sex, right?
Yeah.
But like, and I do think at some point she shows him some of her paintings. I think she paints him at one point, I want to say.
Yeah, we're actually getting to those chapters soon.
Yeah. But like when Feyre's pissed at Tamlin, she's like, I want nothing to fucking do with you.
She wants to,
Whereas with Rhys, she's like, oh, you're being such a little bitch right now, but I'm still going to paint your cabin and I know you're going to see it. And I'm going to paint your eyes over the fucking door frame. Like, I think it's more so that for me where it's
No, I do. I see that. I absolutely, I see that. It is she is different with her painting.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the two boys, like, she is different about it for sure.
It's how she shows her vulnerability too,
absolutely.
That is Feyre is her most vulnerable self when she is painting and showing her work, and it's not just with Rhys. Like she shows Cassian. I know you brought up in one of the last episodes. She shows him like the painting of the withering body. I think I think she might show Azriel at one point a painting. Like,
well, she ends up giving I think that's the thing that does happen with the inner circle is she does actually end up giving her paintings as gifts.
Yes.
Which is a very big deal for Feyre.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I think we kind of forget how big of a deal that is, actually.
Yeah.
Because by that point, Feyre's done so much that we're kind of like, yeah, she's a badass, whatever. But like,
well, and also I think the fandom, and I get why, but it feels a little harsh sometimes. We love to make fun of Feyre's painting.
Yeah.
I see so many memes where it's like, do you like my painting? It's like a stick figure. And it's like, so I think kind of for that reason, we forget like, no, this is actually like a really emotional thing.
Yeah, it's really personal. Well, and it's like anytime anyone shares any of their art, you know, I mean, I also think that's why the quote that you said is like so brilliant for any artist ever is like, we never feel like we can. Okay. Very rarely do I feel like many artists feel like they actually put exactly what was in their head perfectly, like they were able to perfectly translate it over. Like I
welcome
feel like
to my world as a director.
Yep. I feel like very rarely are we able to accomplish that. And so it's hard to show people things when you feel like you already know it's not exactly what you wanted it to be. So yeah, I mean, the fact that she ends up doing them like, and ends up covering a house in her paintings, like, wow. It's actually really crazy to think how far along she comes with her paintings. And I do think so much of that is just because of who she becomes, who she finds within herself, and who she meets within herself by being with Rhys as well. It is interesting to realize that like Tamlin helps start all of that. You know, like I actually love that he gives her like a little room to like paint in. Like he like has it all like set up. It's like a first, room on the first floor, and like I love like he's trying to create this like whole space for her, which I think is like very, very sweet. It's also hard when you know what the curse is and like also what he could be trying to do. It's hard because you have moments of like, is this, and like I actually believe that it is like, I feel like it's like a 90-10.
Yes. Well,
Where it's like 90% he's doing it because he wants to do it for Feyre.
Yes. I'm going to give him a little less grace. I kind of think it's a 50-50.
Okay.
Because on page 170, she even says maybe the pains had been a distraction, a way to get me to stop complaining. And like, I think she thinks, he's distracting her from complaining about home, but like, I do think it is a distraction from the curse.
Yeah.
So maybe, okay, I'll be a little more generous. Maybe 60-40.
Okay.
Right. But I do think it is, again, it's the two truths at one time thing of like,
absolutely.
it is both to distract her and to make her happy. And I don't fault him for that at all.
No, that's what I was just about to say too. Is that like, I don't actually really think it's that bad.
No.
It's almost like this really weird situation where like this kind of is like working out for Tamlin because he like actually really, really likes her and like has and is getting feels and it's kind of like, okay, sweet. This kind of works out here because actually very fond of her. Because that is, and we've said it countless times, that is the one thing that I do not doubt about Tamlin at all, is that Tamlin was absolutely in love with Feyre. I do not doubt that. I really don't. I'm sure there's plenty of girlies who do, but I really don't.
Here's what I would say to those people. If he didn't actually love her, why would he throw such a fucking tantrum?
Try to trap. Once the curse was over, he'd be done with her. Like once it all got fixed,
he wouldn't marry her.
He would be done. Like, because there's no need. Like there's no need to marry her. There's no need to keep her around. Like they're done. Everything's fixed, quote unquote.
Now I'm gonna take over your role for a little second. I'm gonna devil's advocate it. What I just said. If we're going by the bell hooks definition of love cannot exist within abuse.
Okay. Well, that's why I think a lot of the time you and I have phrased it of that we believe that he believes he was in love with her.
Yes.
Because, and I actually think you and I subconsciously have been doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I also believe that if he truly was in love with her, he would not have trapped her in the way that he did, which is why I believe that they were never supposed to be end game.
You know what it is? God, and I hate it. This is a whole Jacob Renesmee Bella situation.
I mean,
Twilight.
Like, yeah.
Like Jacob thought he was in love with Bella. Really, he was in love with her unborn child, and it's fucking creepy. But
fetus. Obviously, like Feyre's supposed to be with Rhys, and so it's like maybe Feyre just helps lead Tamlin to who he's supposed to be with, and if that goes along, if that goes along with some of the theories that you and I think could be, then maybe maybe it's Elaine. Well, but it's interesting though, because talking about the curse and like his ulterior motives and like all this stuff, I was thinking about that a lot.
Yeah.
During her whole freak out, her Tamlin family erasing her from her family, right? Yeah. She has this whole, she smells the change of the seasons and realizes she's been there a while.
Yeah.
Change of the seasons from the mortal realm because bitch has been in spring for like 3 months.
It never changes here.
But yeah, she goes into that whole freak out and like it is very understandable.
Oh,
her freak out. Then she kind of does this classic girl thing where, I mean, she's very, she realizes what the problem is, right? Is that she can't tell if she's upset with herself for finding her own joy here or if she's upset. It's like, she's like, I don't know why I feel so tremendously ashamed of myself for leaving them, why it feels so selfish and horrible to paint. I shouldn't feel that way, should I? I know I shouldn't, but I can't help it. And then finally we get all those years, what I did for them, and they didn't try to stop you from taking me. I love that she's honest with Tamlin about this, and those who listened to the last episode, I know I'm like literally verbatim repeating myself, but I just feel like this is like a very important moment of just her personal discovery. Yeah. And she says this, and then she kind of falls into this whole like, yeah, but okay, why am I even bothering you with this? Like, this is not as big of a deal of any of the other stuff that you have going on. And he says, like, if it grieves you, then I don't think it's absurd at all. Right.
Yeah.
And he kind of takes this opportunity to like get close to her, right? Because she's cut her hands. And we do kind of get one of our first, like, more sensual, spicier moments
Yeah.
comparatively in this book. But I did have this moment when I was like, oh, he cares about her feelings. And then my little fully read ACOTAR series brain goes, does he? Like, it's really hard when you
Ugh.
know about the curse and you
Yeah.
are doing this back and forth. And I know I'm kind of contradicting what you and I like we're literally just talking about, but it's really hard to not have that doubt in your head like the whole time
Yeah.
of like, I do wonder if deep down he is a little bit like, yeah, why are you still complaining about your family? Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
hear about this anymore. I've set you up perfectly. Why are
Yeah.
we still talking about this? Oh, but I have to be sweet. I have to be gentle. I have to be, you know what? I'm just going to distract her and heal her wounds with
Yeah.
my mouth.
It's hard. And I think it's really valid that is how you felt, and I'm glad you're bringing it up because I think this is something really relatable. I think a lot of us have been in relationships, romantic or otherwise, where we've
Mm,
been used,
yeah.
right? We've been a means to an end for whatever reason. Obviously not to break a curse, but hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us when we've come to that realization of like, oh, I was used by that person, you do the thing where you spiral and you
Yeah.
go, "Oh, was that moment genuine or was I just being used in that moment?"
Yeah.
Right? And so I think we're probably going to see this a lot happen as we're rereading
Yeah.
this, like within ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Like I think it's why we all kind of hate Tamlin because we've all feel betrayed by him,
Yeah.
right? And I think, maybe she intentionally wrote certain parts so that way when you go
Yeah.
back and reread it, like, you kind of feel that way. I do think in this moment, I think he is being genuine because we have seen the switch turn
Yeah.
on for him where, like, before when he was getting annoyed with her, it was pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's
he
true.
was not hiding it.
Yeah.
Whereas now, it's not like she's really getting that much closer to figuring out what's going on,
Yeah.
right? So it's not like he has to up his game, right?
Right.
Like I think he genuinely is falling for. I mean, we
Yeah.
know we've read the book, so we know the next week we're gonna get to the Calanmai post Calanmai scene where he fucking bites her,
Yeah.
right? Like because he wants to fuck her,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so. I do think he's genuinely falling for her, but I think you bring up a really good point of like there is a reason why we are questioning these things in these moments,
Yeah.
and that again, it goes back to the tragedy of Tamlin,
Yeah.
Tamlin and Feyre. Of it's not even a relation. There are some relationships I think a lot of people go through where like they just didn't work out, but they can mutually part ways on good terms and look back on fondly and be like, oh, that was nice. Like it served its purpose, right?
Yeah.
Tamlin and Feyre is not one of those really. Maybe one day for them, maybe, but right now it's not, and it's because of the fact that he used her.
Well, it's really more how he treats her after Under the Mountain. Because what's funny
Yes,
is when you realize Feyre learns about a portion of the curse before she goes to Under the Mountain,
yeah,
before she decides. So Feyre herself knows that he's been trying like she knows all of
true.
this and she still decides. And I do think a lot of it is because that he ends up sending her away.
Yeah,
I think that makes her feel like, okay, it became real. And so he didn't
yeah,
want to, but then I'm excited for us to get to that portion. Cause I like how she gets really
yeah,
annoyed with him actually. Cause she's like, bro, I was in love with you. Like if you had just said
yeah,
it, we would have been like done and this would have been
right.
whatever. But which is also the annoyance of Tamlin. But I think that's what's so hard is that like we have the curse, and so we're like we're overthinking everything. But in reality, Tamlin broke all of our hearts because of how he treats Feyre in Mist and Fury.
Yes,
Right?
but I think the deeper wound is that.
Yeah.
it's being used. I think the obvious wound, right? The fresher wound is what happens post Rhys coming and saving her from that wedding
Yeah.
and everything,
Yeah.
right? But I think upon a reread, at
Yeah.
least in my
Yeah.
experience, I'm like, that's still obviously bad, but the deeper kind of festering wound, and it's the reason they never were gonna make it, is this relationship is
Based off.
it's based on him using her.
Yeah.
Whereas Rhys, I mean, I guess you could argue like
I mean, Rhys definitely
maybe
uses her in the beginning, but he's honest about it.
he's honest, and he knew before that, oh, she's my mate, right?
Well, no.
Because in Mist and Fury, when he does the whole like info dump of like, this is what happened, he knows he's been seeing a human woman for some reason, and when he sees her at Calanmai, he's like, oh, it's her.
Yeah, but he doesn't know why he's seeing her until she becomes Faye. And that's why at the end of this book,
Right.
when she comes and talks to him, he goes like, oh shit, and he just flies away.
Right.
Because
but at the very least, he knows she's
important, but he doesn't
Yeah.
really understand why.
Right.
And I think he even says in that like big chapter, I think he originally just thought that she was important in getting rid of Amarantha.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I think he says that, but like literally one of his last lines in this book is like, oh shit, and he flies away.
Yeah. That's going to be hilarious to get to.
I know. Okay. Yeah. So that if it grieves you, do we believe if he's being honest or not? You believe that he is.
So.
I mean, I think you're totally right. Like, it's that one thing where like I want to believe every single little thing that he does. Also, with the slight kind of guy that starts coming out in Mist and Fury and how he treats her with certain things.
Yeah.
I do wonder if in this book we are seeing a bit of him on his best behavior.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's moments there, but I do believe that after this he really gets, I mean, like this whole
charm
moment
kicks up.
Well, like, yeah, the whole, but also like this whole moment in the garden, I really believe that he is like so deep in it. Like they are so close to kissing.
Yeah.
And I really think what pops him out is him realizing
he's using her.
The curse. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what's like really weird is like I have this moment of like, is this real? But then I think it becomes real. And then all of a sudden he's like, fuck, because he literally does that line of one day there will be answers for everything. He said, releasing my hand and stepping away, but not until the time is right, until it's safe. Yeah. And like, and she even, it says like in the dark, his tone was enough to know that his eyes reflect with bitterness. This to me is like, hey, reread friends. This is our boy having a conflict of like heart here.
Yeah. I do want to get to though the dirty limericks.
Oh God, yes, the dirty limericks. Well,
which are so funny.
God, also just this whole scene of her catching him and he, you know, he throws his head back and she finally gets to run her fingers through his hair and just like, oh my God,
silky blonde locks.
It's just fucking hot. Well, because also it's our first time seeing Feyre do something to him.
Yes, initiate.
And, ugh, I love it.
Couple things I have to say on it.
Okay.
The first is, again, it feels like such high school behavior. Like, just like, let me write you these dirty limericks, right?
Dirty poems. I know. It feels very like junior high
teenage
school.
Boy.
Yeah.
The other thing, and I forgot what it was that you said in the spoiler-free episode, but something reminded me of this. It reminds me, and I'm sorry, listeners, you're going to hear me quote my Lord and Savior Taylor Swift all the fucking time, and I'm going to do it again. It reminds me of a lyric from her song Lover, where she says, and you'll save all your dirtiest jokes for me.
Aww.
Which sounds cute.
I think it sounds adorable because I'm like such an immature baby. So like that's like my love language. But yeah.
So I'm going to give a little Swiftie history real quick.
Oh, here we go.
So, you know, Lover is on her album Lover, which has a lot of love songs on it. As she was preparing to come out with her newest album, The Tortured Poets Department, as part of her like kind of rollout for it, she created playlists for The Tortured Poets Department, but it was all of her previous music. right? And it was 5 different playlists, and it was the 5 stages of grief.
Oh, God.
And she basically defined her music by each one of these stages.
Yeah.
And Lover, the song Lover, was in the denial stage.
Oh.
And the reason I bring this up is I don't think she's quite there yet, but I know, I mean, eventually Feyre does get to it. But I think there is a little denial going on right now. I think there is this gut feeling that Feyre's getting, and I touched on this a little bit without spoiling with the dreams she's having, right?
Mm-hmm.
She knows something isn't right, and she, I think, is denying it, right? She knows there's a she out there who's evil. She knows that Tamlin has something to do with her, and obviously there's no way she's gonna be able to put this together, because who the fuck would think, like, oh, this blight is actually a curse that this evil woman put on Tamlin.
Yeah.
But I wonder if Feyre is overlooking some of these red flags that Tamlin's putting out there. So just some food for thought.
I do think there's a lot of denial in Feyre in this book, more in the sense of that it's wildly convenient.
Yeah.
To fall in love with Tamlin for her.
And be given all this
being given all this stuff.
She clearly doesn't know the phrase, there's no such thing as a free lunch, obviously. Yeah.
But also, it's a lot of what we've touched on in a lot of the other episodes, which is just like she falls in love with, I think, the comfort that Tamlin gives her.
Yep.
And it's a lot of what I think I also talked about in the last episode, or in the spoiler free one, which is like she is now getting to explore her joy, and she feels safe.
Yeah.
So these dirty little 12-year-old boy limericks feel totally in line with that. Yeah. Of like she and her laughing this hard at them. Like, I don't really care that I've seen his claws come out, or I don't really like it's like
that's
he
the denial
has
part.
So he has given me so much, and at the end of the day has actually been a friend and a protector.
Yeah.
And he's making me laugh, and he's trying to do things to make me laugh. And I actually think a lot of us have put ourselves in particular situations where we have denied certain signs because someone could make you laugh, because someone can make you feel like I absolutely think that we do that as people,
I mean, laughter is so disarming, right?
Oh yeah.
Like for better or worse. And like,
oh God, some of the dudes I decided to date just because they made me laugh. Oh my God.
Yeah. Same.
But high school was a weird time. But what's kind of weirdly fun though is I like that there's an element of her right now that is just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, she's earned that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just these I love them. The limericks, like, fucking kills limericks. Me. Like, it's just hilarious. Like, this feels very like I don't question this moment at all.
Yeah.
From a curse perspective, because he went out of his way to create this poem. Like, this is something she wouldn't even have noticed if he hadn't done it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, that stuff feels
genuine.
A lot of people talk about how sometimes some of the most abusive partners are extremely charismatic people.
Absolutely.
And they suck you in, and they bring you into this like kind of like space. And so I think there's an element of that in Tamlin that maybe we're kind of seeing here, and maybe that's how that kind of ties into the
denial thing,
Taylor Swift thing there, because it's like there's a performative element that from what I have heard about certain types of abusive partners, that they can kind of do this kind of thing.
Performance.
Yeah. Yes. But it was funny. I completely forgot about these limericks, I'll be honest with you.
Oh my God.
Reading this chapter again, I was like, this is hilarious. I love this so much that this is happening. Like, mainly because you get so caught up in who Tamlin becomes that you really, like, I forgot there was a goofy side of Tamlin.
I mean, Mr. Fiddleboy over here.
Mr. Fiddleboy, which is also something we learn in this chapter. We learn, amongst the fact that he is like this bred and born fucking killer, right?
Yeah.
And that his
Yeah.
family is awful. You also learn that he plays a mean fiddle, which I love that he just like throws it in there. Like it's just like it's in there, and then he's like, and then I became a warrior. Like it's very funny how he does this whole moment. But the thing about this part with his family, which is that it actually answered a question you and I were curious about a while ago.
His parents,
which the fact that they were mates.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
that she
I wanted to talk about that.
and they weren't just mates. She loved him.
Loved him. Yes. That's significant.
Yeah.
And it's I have some feelings about Mama Tamlin. I don't know what to call her. So yeah, I think it's this classic, again, I'm going to say it again. The Civil War, American Civil War is heavily referenced in this. And you had a lot of people back then, like we've talked about, well-meaning people, right?
Yeah.
Who supported bad people.
Yeah.
Right? And this is Tamlin's mom, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think she went out of her way to be bad, but by being married to her husband, she also is a slave owner, right? Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, there's really no defending it.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to talk about in regards to this section is, so when he's talking about the mates, he says, "Hi, Faye, wed without the mating bond, but if you find your mate, the bond is so deep that marriage is insignificant in comparison," right?
Yeah.
So he's establishing that marriage is not the most significant thing. And what do he and Feyre almost do in Mist and Fury?
Yeah.
Like, this is the setup for it, I feel.
Yeah.
Because we know, I actually don't know when it gets established that the mating bond, like, you feel it pretty immediately when you meet your mate. That might not get established until Mist and Fury.
Yeah.
I want to say it doesn't. But I think we kind of, definitely by the beginning of Akamath, we get the idea that if they were mates,
we would know.
We would know by now.
Well, because I think she even like questions it. Like I feel like she even has a thing where she's like, "Is he my mate? Like maybe he's my mate." Like there's this kind of, and that I feel like part of the reason why Tamlin like marries her is I think that he's hoping something's gonna pop into place.
Yes.
When they get married.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is funny though. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Well, and then if you compare it to Feyre and Rhys's marriage, they elope.
Oh yeah,
right?
It was a secret.
One thing I will say, even though I had a great wedding, when you have a lot of people at your wedding, like Tamlin and Feyre did with theirs, you don't get a lot of private time with your partner. And that's why, like, I think elopements are really fucking beautiful. And honestly, one day I want David and I to renew our vows where it's just like the two of us, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
The pomp and circumstances of Tamlin and Feyre's wedding, it's like Ianthe plans the whole thing. Like Feyre gets a little say. Like everyone from every fucking court is basically invited. Versus Rhys and Tamlin, who do it in secret. And mind you, they do it in secret because they have to, because war is coming.
There it is.
It's still really intimate and beautiful.
It's really intimate and beautiful.
I think that Tamlin's saying this whole thing about like marriage is insignificant compared to the mating bond. Like it is a setup a little bit for that. So
yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because I just hadn't kind of looked at that little moment in that way. I mean, I think there's a lot of other little things in this, like when he says the fortunately or unfortunately, they were all killed by the High Lord of an enemy court.
Oh,
the wording choice there. So obviously, guys, we know he's talking about Rhys's family killing Tamlin's family.
Yeah.
And the fortunately or unfortunately word choice that Tamlin uses here, I actually think is like wildly important.
I do too. And it okay. We can't talk about it too long, but I do want to talk about it because like I had always gotten the sense that is why, a huge reason why Tamlin hates Rhys, right? Is he killed his family. But now that we've seen this wording, right? I'm wondering if Tamlin kind of uses that as like almost like a scapegoat to hate Rhys. You know what I mean? Because like I think it's gonna kind of come out that Tamlin is glad his family is dead.
Yeah.
I mean, he has nothing, not a single positive thing to say about anyone except sort of his mom, right? He seems glad that his dad and brothers are dead. I
Yeah.
think he's resentful because he then became the High Lord. He didn't want that, right? But I don't think he actually mourns the death of the men in his family,
No, I mean,
right?
he actually says that in
Yeah.
this moment. He says, "My
Yeah.
mother I mourned. The others,
Yes.
my brothers would not have tried to save me from a fate like yours." Like, he
Right.
basically admits it there. And like, I actually do think in another book, there's like a weird moment where Lucian or someone kind of alludes to what you're saying of like,
Yeah.
Tamlin actually doesn't really hate Rhys for this.
No. He hates Rhys for stealing Feyre.
Well, he disliked Rhys before Feyre came around.
Right.
And
Right.
I think a lot of it has to do with just like, well, first of all, the character that Rhys plays and has played for a very long time to protect Valeris is kind of a dick. So like, it's fair. And he's this pretty boy prick.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, so he already kind of dislikes him for that. He dislikes him for killing his family. I think it's another two truths moment where
Yes.
you can kind of be happy that someone's dead, but you can still dislike that somebody killed your family.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, I think it's an overall, but I also think there's a lot of stuff in this series, I think, where we kind of learn that there's a lot of people who've just been jealous of Rhys for a long time.
I was going to say, I think that's what it is. And I think, because like Tamlin didn't like Rhys before, but it wasn't like he, like, even in this book, he doesn't hate Rhys like he hates Rhys in Mystic Fury and Aquar, right? Like, the hatred for Rhys ramps up, and I think it's a jealousy thing, and it's a jealousy thing over Feyre for sure, but I think it also goes beyond that. I think the more Rhys shows who he actually is, the more Tamlin hates him, because I think what he realizes is they're two sides of the same coin. Right? But Rhys is the hero side. And Tamlin is kind of the coward side.
Well, I also think what really starts pissing Tamlin off, and I think part of the reason why he actually ends up coming to help save Rhys at the end is I think what really pisses him off is he actually respects the fuck out of Rhys.
And I think he hates that.
Yeah, because of exactly of what you're saying, of that Rhys had the courage to play a part to protect an entire, what do we want to call Valeris? Like
city.
Yeah.
And not just like in any little way. Like Tamlin is like, I don't want to marry Amarantha.
Yeah.
Amorantha made Rhys a sex slave.
Exactly.
For 50 years. And doesn't even like really want, she just wants his body. Yeah. Right? That's it. Whereas like Amarantha, I would argue, is in love with Tamlin. And I mean, there's even theories, and like we're going to explore this theory at some point. There's a theory out there that Amarantha was actually Rhys's mate. I'm sorry, Tamlin's mate. And so it's like that adds a whole nother level. But regardless if they're mates, I think it's very clear that Amarantha is in love as she can be with Tamlin.
She believes she is in love with Tamlin.
Yes, she wants to marry Tamlin. Yeah, right. And he can't even do that to save his friends, let alone his people. Whereas Rhys is like, I'll fucking be a sex slave for 50 years. Like, if that means saving my people. And I think Rhys is a mirror. Rhys is a mirror for Tamlin.
I think so too. No, I think so too. And I think it's that classic thing when you like really want to hate someone and then they end up actually being like fucking rad as hell, and you're just like,
yep. And it makes you hate them more.
Well, you realize you have like two roads you have to choose, where you basically swallow your fucking pride and just become their friend.
Which Tamlin doesn't become his friend, but he helps save his life.
Yeah. Or you double down and you continue to hate that person, which Tamlin does for a while.
Too.
Yeah. But the other thing in this moment, in this whole conversation between these two, is when Tamlin does the like, when the title fell to me, it was a rough transition. Many of my father's courtiers defected to other courts rather than have a warrior beast snarling at them. And Feyre just pops off. She's like, then they're idiots. You've kept these lands protected from the blight when it seems others haven't fared so well. They're idiots. And then it says, but darkness flickered in Tamlin's eyes and his shoulders seemed to curve inward ever so slightly. This moment is like, well,
revealing.
Yeah, because she is like, you're the only one doing anything about this blight. Like, what the fuck? Like, she's getting all defensive for her mans. And Tamlin's sitting there being like, the blight is because of me. Like, no one is doing anything because they're all trapped under a fucking mountain. Like, this is one of those quotes that, like, if Feyre thinks about later, she's gonna be embarrassed as hell. You know, it's like, it's one of those where when I read this for this week of recording, I was like, oh baby girl, oh my god, you have no idea. And it's like, that is when I start getting pissed at Tamlin again, because I'm just like, you had this girl fucking ready to literally put you on this fucking pedestal.
Fight for your honor.
Fight for your
life.
And yes, he can't tell her. So it fucking sucks. But it's just like,
he can't tell her about the curse, but he can tell her how his family died. He can tell the whole truth. He is omitting parts of the truth. Right?
Yeah.
Like, he could have said, well, you know, the enemy, the High Lord of the Night Court killed my family because we kind of beheaded his mom and sister and stole their wings first. Like, he could have said that. Like, that, as far as we know, that has nothing to do with the curse.
Yeah. But why would he tell her that right now?
Oh, of course. But it's more of it's the whole,
he could show he's not so perfect.
Well, it's the whole history is written by the victors thing, right?
Yeah.
He, as of this point in the series, he is the victor, right? Rhys is under that mountain doing Lord knows what.
Yep.
Being forced to do Lord knows what.
Yep.
Tamlin's still living his cush life, you know, with having to deal with a fucking mask. That's about it. And he's omitting parts of the story.
Yeah.
For his own benefit.
Yeah.
So I do want to quickly talk about the Attor.
Dude, the fucking Attor moment.
I think it's just funny how obvious it is now rereading this book for the first time, being like, oh my god, like, it's all there.
Yeah, because he says Heart of Stone.
Yeah, again.
He says, like, he's like, your time's coming up. You're like, I love the, like, she says some loose gifts and reminders of what will happen if she catches you trying to break the terms.
Yep. I don't have a ton to say about it other than, like, it's so funny, and it truly is that thing, like, and I love it when writers do it, where it's like, oh, I know as the reader, I'm going to realize what this means later, but I have no idea what the fuck it means right now.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think this whole Attor scene, I actually think it pulls Tamlin out of this, like, cutesy place that he was in with Feyre.
Yeah.
Because it's this reminder that their time is almost up. They're now being threatened at their home by this creature that we all know is terrifying.
Yeah.
And he can't just play courtier anymore.
Yeah.
He can't.
No.
Like, he has to get
really
more
real.
serious about their relationship. He can't take his time. Like, and so I think this moment is, like, really difficult for Tamlin because it just snaps everything back into reality. Like, they're not in this, like, cute little la la land anymore. And I think also this whole scene is pretty terrifying because if the Attor were to find out that Feyre was there, if the Attor finds out who Feyre is, well, I mean, the minute that the Attor realized a human woman was there, he had to know what was going on. Like, that this is all, like, very scary. Like, I'm actually shocked that he even lets Feyre, like, stay in the garden, to be honest with you. I think it's because he didn't have enough time.
Yeah. And that was kind of all he could do.
Yeah, because he even said, like, we'll mask your smell, like your scent or something like that. And so it's like, I think it's just, it would have been too much. But, like,
it would have been too risky.
But and so what's wild is, like, in the same moment, this whole situation becomes very real. Their playtime has to go faster. And also, Feyre just became about 20 times more important. Like, they already viewed her as important, but now it's like, holy shit.
Meanwhile, Calanmai is like tomorrow too.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
know. I
like,
always love how like writers will like do the timing of these things. Like it's just so like ridiculous.
he's like, I have to seduce you, but then go fuck a complete stranger
Yeah, that
tomorrow.
my instincts will choose. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Also, the one thing about this Attor moment is we do really get to see Lucian like standing up for our boy, which is very cool. And I very much love that. But yeah, this it is really funny when you know the whole thing about Amarantha, you're like, "Oh, well, look at that. It's just all right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that fun?" Everything is like, "Hey buddy, speed up.
Let's go.
Get it going."
It's showtime.
And what I think is wild in chapter 20 is that
Yeah.
bitch fucking paints the Attor.
Yeah, that I mean, it actually makes sense to me because I think we kind of talked about this in the last episode, so I don't want to like go too into it, but I think that's how she processes, right?
But
Like,
how? She
I
doesn't
mean,
see it. Like, I don't know. There's some other moments with Feyre and like stuff that she paints
yeah,
that is like has moments of like being a bit prophetic. And I
yeah,
don't know. It's just weird to me. I actually
yeah.
think painting is like her magical power. But
It truly is.
yeah.
One thing, speaking of magical powers, actually, one thing I want to bring up is on page 183, she's talking about hearing the drums, right?
Dude.
And it says there was a string tied to my gut that pulled me towards those hills, commanding me to go to hear the fairy drums. Is that the mating bond?
No.
Are you sure? Because the mating bond oftentimes is described as like feeling like a string being tugged at you.
But this is like
within.
really early in the day.
But if Rhys is already planning on being there.
But Rhys doesn't show up till later. She wouldn't feel it if he wasn't there yet.
I think it's more like, I think the mating bond, there's still a lot that's unknown about the mating bond overall, right?
I think it's just the magic of the drums. It's supposed to entice people to come and to join and to like
Yes.
you know, they even talk about it how like it really is affecting all the fairies and all the stuff. Like
Sure.
I think it's more that the drums are magical. I think that's what it is, but
I think it's both because I think it's like not that Rhys is there yet. It's like destiny, right? It's that like he's already made the decision to go. And therefore, the universe is kind of like tugging at Feyre. That mating bond is tugging at her, saying, "You need to go too," right? Like, your destiny is kind of awaiting you at Calanmai tonight. I think that's what it is.
okay. I'm not going to fight you because there's not a lot to fight you on, honestly. And I mean, I do remember that when Rhys talks about that night, he does talk about how he felt pulled there, I think, for some reason. So
Yes.
we very well could, you know, you could be proven correct. So I'm not going to fight you too hard. Also, I don't really see the harm in you thinking that. So get it, girl. I'm here for it. I personally just think that it's these drums are something else.
Oh, I think the drums are. It's both, right? I think it's
Yeah.
both. Like there's something weird about those drums for sure.
Yeah. Well, also, I love this whole seeing Tamlin in this whole ensemble, right?
Oh, well,
Oh God, it's such a hot image to me. But what I love is I literally wrote down, I said, lock your doors because Tamlin's gonna be horny.
hide your kids, hide your wife.
Hide your kids, hide your wife. Like it is like when you know what happens, it's so funny how much they're like,
Oh,
lock the doors.
truly. Well, it's so funny. And I had to bite my tongue during the spoiler-free episode because so when I first read this book, I mean, aside from it obviously being a spicy romantic book where I knew sex would happen eventually, I kind of had already figured out it was going to be a magical orgy.
Yeah.
Because if you know anything about paganism,
right,
and kind of like pagan witchy practices, spring always represents fertility, right? And how do we get fertility?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, there's going to be fucking. Like, that's what's going to happen here. I thought it'd be a bigger orgy, mind you.
Yeah.
Which I have a question that we'll get to later. But before we do, I wanted to point one thing out that we talked about last week and talk about very briefly. So last week, I believe it was last week, we talked about the Gwen theory that Gwen is Tamlin's daughter, right?
Yeah.
I knew we had a few questions about like the languaging of things.
Yeah.
So on page 184, he's explaining to Feyre, like, he has to go to Calanmai. He says, as a High Lord, I have to partake in the Great Rite. He doesn't say the High Lord of the Spring Court. He says a High Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. So in theory, maybe, like, I'm just curious to know, like, if a different high, like, let's say Tamlin had to tap out of Calanmai, which actually we know he does in Mist and Fury.
Yeah.
He doesn't do Calanmai that year.
Yeah.
And I think, doesn't like Lucian take over?
Yeah.
So in theory, then yeah, another High Lord could come in and take, because Lucian's not even a fucking High Lord, right?
Yeah.
So someone else could come in and take Tamlin's place. Now, all the other High Lords are under the mountain, unless, you know, there's going to be some big plot twist and we find out, like, Baron or something like that was let out for Calanmai. But it also, again, it could be another year where, like, Lucian took over or something. So I just want to point that out because I know we talked about wording. So I'm going to keep my eye on that for the Gwen theory. But I still think it's possible it's Tamlin.
Yeah.
That's her dad.
Yeah. The only thing I really remember us really, like, picking apart and being really curious about was just, like, is it only considered the Great Rite when it's a High Lord?
Right.
And I think we know that for sure.
Well, we'll find out in Mist and Fury. Again, Lucian takes over for Calanmai.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So if the, like, High Lord, like, yeah.
And she's a redhead, as we've talked about. So.
Exactly. So, you know, but yeah, I just love, like, the whole confusion around Calanmai, and we just, like, Feyre knows she can't go, which is super annoying, and then our queen is just like, fuck it, and decides to, like, go out into the woods, which, like, any one of us would. I mean, I would absolutely do this.
I think I would like to think I would. I think I'd be too scared to
well, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure the minute I rode out there and saw how many Fae were there, and then realizing, like, I am a human woman, I would be like, peace out. Like,
deuces.
Absolutely not. This is very scary. I love this, like, line up to the cave, and that there's, like, a pelt in the cave, and you're like, sexy time in the cave. Got it. Understood.
So I have a question about this.
Yeah.
We know that once the Great Rite is performed, right? Everyone else is free to fuck whom they want.
Yeah.
Do they watch Tamlin fuck? Like, is this a thing where, like,
well, no, because I think it's that once the girl is chosen,
right?
I think then once that person is chosen, I think they all start
dispersing.
Yeah, because I think it's like, now that like everyone knows, like, who they can't fuck because she's been taken, then I think it's like, because they actually kind of talk about how anyone who fucks this night is helping the earth regenerate.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But, like, is there still an element of, like, people have to watch?
I don't know. And I actually don't think we get an answer with that.
No.
Of, like,
and like,
what's the schedule? What's the order of ceremonies?
What's the itinerary here
when it comes to this evening? Because I got a lot of questions. Because also there's a stag, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah. Oh, the implications of that.
I know.
Within the Massverse.
Yeah, I know.
How do people know when they're done fucking? To, like, do all the rest of the Calanmai shenanigans, right? Like,
so
is there,
from,
like,
what I've gathered of Calanmai,
yeah,
it does seem that, because basically he has to kill a stag, because so there's, like, a sacrificial hunt,
right,
and then he chooses a maiden,
right,
and it seems that once that happens, then the rest of the festivities happen. That's when the drinking and the dancing and the other fucking happens. But it's like all of the, like, Tamlin stuff has to happen first.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
I think everyone just stays where they are too. I don't think anyone's going off to a, like, more private area to fuck. I think everyone's just kind of there.
It's like, this just it's never explicitly said, but I'm like, this just feels like an orgy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It feels like an orgy where there's one specific couple who doesn't fuck anybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's one,
the off limits
main. They're like they're the entertainment.
The host and hostess.
Yeah, they're the host and hostess, and they are the entertainment.
Yes.
Right. They're the show. You don't join the show.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And then the audience just kind of fucks about.
There's no audience participation with them, at least.
No, only amongst each other. Do you see? There is a difference because they are not a part of the group.
Is there, though? If people are watching you fuck And I'm asking.
Oh, now this
the
is a
orgy.
very interesting, like,
Yes.
overall psychological. Okay, all right, lay it on me, girl.
I'm asking the orgy experts out there because I truly don't know. If you are not having sex with more than one person in an orgy, but you're in the same room and other people can watch you fuck, are you partaking in the orgy?
That's a stellar question.
I would say yes.
I have never partaken in an orgy, so I
Same.
don't know. But you're right. You phrasing it that way, I would say
Yeah.
yes. I would say that you were a part of the orgy because you were
Right.
one of the people having
People
sex within the group.
People are getting off to you. Like,
Okay.
know?
No, this is a very valid point. I think you're right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And this is why I think, look, again, here I think we talked about it just in the spoiler-free episode. Like, there are some people out there who do not think Attor is at all spicy, right? To which I say, look, Thorns and Roses, absolutely the least spicy. But by the same token, you have like Calanmai, even though we don't see it.
Yeah.
Discussing the philosophy of orgies is not something I put on my bingo card for today.
Actually, okay. I really hope that we get one listener, at least one, who has been a part of an orgy and could like tell us that. Like, I'm being so serious.
Yeah,
I would really love to know the answer to that.
Write us at cauldronsaveus@gmail.com.
I hope we have a listener who educates us here, because I would love to know.
Calanmai, man.
Calanmai, man.
All right, I think we've had enough orgy talk.
Oh my god, I love where that descended to. That was magical.
My god.
Oh, okay. Before we get to Rhys showing up, this glamour situation. I know there is an element of Feyre's glamoring that is purely because she's human. Because she she can't even, it's like her human senses like can't even tap into.
It's because Tamlin glamored her.
Well, okay.
I'm pretty positive because the whole thing is, because I was thinking about this too, and I realized it as we were like, I think we were talking in the last episode. Tamlin glamours Feyre, so she can't see any of like the Fae that don't look human as like what they actually look like.
So that's probably why she's having a hard time looking at these Fae.
Yes, because they're like Fae, like Alice or like all the other servants who don't look human.
Got it.
Whereas the guys that attack her look human enough.
Yes.
Right?
They look human enough that like her glamour doesn't like completely cover them.
Correct. I think that's how I interpreted it. But it is a little confusing. Oh, right. In the
I almost feel like, do you think maybe his glamour only covers spring court people?
I was about to say, yeah. I wonder. And these are just like other.
And these are just other, like, he can't, I mean, fuck. That's wow. Like, you know.
Yeah, that would be.
Dude's power is diminished. Like, that's a lot of fucking work. Like, holy God.
Okay. It's got to be that then.
It has to be, because
the Naga and the Puka and the Suriel do not belong to the spring court.
Yeah. And I feel, and these guys don't, because they don't have masks.
Right.
And I bet it's like she can't fully zero in on them, probably because it's like too many concentrated in one space.
Yeah.
Because it's not like she can't see Alice. Right.
Right.
So that was the thing that I was like,
into one another.
Yeah. Like she was like having, I don't know, that whole moment where she was like kind of realizing that she was glamored. I was like, okay, but like, wait, what's like the rules of the glamour here? Like, what can we see? What are we not allowed to see? Yeah. So spring court, that makes sense.
Spring court. Our Suriel squad does not know about this unless you've listened to the spoiler-free episodes. But if you haven't, normally in our spoiler-free episodes, we have a little segment, for just as a reminder, me and Corryn, we work in film. I'm a writer-director. Corryn is a boom operator and works in sound. So we each pick a moment in the chapters that we cover for the week where Corryn does her sound moment and I do a writer-director moment of like, if we were to translate this onto the screen, how would we do it, right? There was no way I wasn't going to do the big moment at the end of chapter 20, right? As my director moment. And I worried, like, I can't talk about why I picked that moment without spoiling it, right?
Totally.
Because this is like truly top 5 most iconic moments in the entire fucking series, right? So my writer-director moment is on page 188. It's a little long, so bear with me. It starts at, the ground welled up beneath me, and I reached for my knives, but sturdy hands grasped me under my shoulders before I could draw them or hit the grass. They were strong hands, warm and broad, not at all like the prodding bony fingers of the three fairies who went utterly still as whoever caught me gently set me upright. There you are. I've been looking for you, said a deep, sensual male voice I'd never heard. But I kept my eyes on the three fairies, bracing myself for a fight as the male behind me stepped to my side and slipped a casual arm around my shoulder. The three lesser fairies paled, their dark eyes wide. Thank you for finding her for me, my savior said to them, smooth and polished. Enjoy the rite. There was enough of a bite between his last words that the fairies stiffened. Without further comment, they scuttled back to the bonfires. I stepped out of the shelter of my savior's arms and turned to thank him. Standing before me was the most beautiful man I'd ever seen. And I wanted to show you. I decided to be a little high school teenage girl.
Yeah.
My book. And I wrote this. Hearts and everything.
Oh my gosh, you guys, it's literally the bottom of the page for that chapter. It just says Rhysand in really big letters and big hearts and stars. Oh my god, it's adorable. Oh my god,
because
I love it.
I am a 14-year-old girl with a mad crush on a boy I could never have. No, I mean this. I don't think I have to explain why I picked this. Like we all know.
Yeah.
But what I will explain is how I would direct this.
Okay.
And I'm actually really glad we talked about right before this the whole Feyre not being able to see the Fae, because I would kind of want to use a tilt shift lens or something along those lines to make it look like, for those who don't know, tilt shift lenses, like if you've ever seen American Horror Story season 1 especially, they use a lot of tilt shift lenses where it makes like the edges and background like really blurry, like beyond like normal depth of field. It like makes it very disorienting.
Yeah, wildly out of focus.
And like probably have to do some additional like VFX afterward to make it like kind of like almost that like drunk, like if you've ever tried drunk goggles, like that sort of like look.
Yeah.
And I think I would carry that over into this part of the scene where, but I would change, I'd want to change lenses slightly, and I don't know quite what to, maybe a different lens length or something like that, but I'd want to like change it enough where it's like, okay, we know we're not, like when she turns around, it's not that she's gonna not see this guy. It's more, I'd want to make it more romantic, right? And I think I'd focus a lot on, like, I do a lot of close-ups, right? So like close-ups of his hand and like touching her and like lifting her up. The sound design, I mean, his voice, which also, if you have a physical copy of the book, you'll see this there. If not, you can look it up. Prithian looks like the UK, which would put the Night Court in Scotland. So a lot of people think that Rhys has a Scottish accent, which, oh my god. You should see Corinne's face if you're not watching the YouTube. Like
that is news to me.
Oh, you didn't know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people think Rhys has a Scottish accent.
He has like a deep
Oh
my god.
I know.
What I love about this whole portion too is seeing how fucking scared they are of Rhys.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I love so much about Rhys is actually how fucking powerful he is. He is extremely powerful. Even when Tamlin is at full strength, Rhys is still more powerful than him because Rhys is older than him. And like Rhys is supposed to be one of the most powerful High Lords like of an age. Like it's supposed to be insane, right? And so like when we got this in this chapter, I was like, Rhys is so powerful.
I know.
And like they're terrified of him. Like the minute he puts his arm around her, they're like, oh fuck. Like I love it.
Oh, we gonna die tonight.
Don't die tonight. Oh my god. I am reacting in ways.
I'm not gonna be okay when this gets adapted.
Wow. Oh.
Everyone bring some extra panties with you when the scene happens, because you're gonna need them.
Dude, honestly, I feel like if this is like a movie, they're gonna have to like pause the movie for like 10 minutes of like standing ovation. Like they're just going to, or else we're all gonna miss the rest of the scene.
Completely. There's this great TikTok. I'll try and find it and link it in the show notes. But there's this girl who did a TikTok when this is back when the series was still being adapted into a show by Hulu. RIP. But this girl was saying, I know it's getting made into a TV series, but I actually really would rather get made into a movie because
Oh my
we're
God.
in a movie. Just imagine opening night, right? Everyone's dressed up in their cosplay. We all go to the theater. Calanmai happens, and we just hear, "There you are. I've been looking for you." And the theater just explodes.
Erupts.
And then there's going to be like 4 or 5 girlies in there who, for some reason, didn't read the book
Wildly
beforehand and are
confused.
going, "Why are we rooting for this? Isn't she supposed to end up with Tamlin?"
Yeah. So confused.
Quick side note, I have been actually thinking, now that it's not going to be made into a TV series by Hulu at least, I actually think it could be a movie. Like a 5 movies, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's more possible certainly than Throne of Glass. And even Crescent City too.
Yeah. Crescent City's so thick. Like,
There's so
and
much.
I don't just mean fucking page count. I just mean
No.
like the amount of shit that fucking happens. I actually think Attor could. I think you would have a rough time with Akawar.
Akawar would probably have to be split into 2 movies.
Basically just because of all the battles.
Yeah.
And like,
Yep.
you could kind of like fast through them, I guess, if you want. But
Yeah.
I actually think it's kind of important to.
You got to get that war tent blowjob scene. Like, come on.
Well, that's going to happen,
Yeah.
obviously.
I do want to go back though to my directing moment real quick. Yeah, so I would use, I think, some tilt shifts, like use some like I know, one, getting the rights to this would be so fucking hard, and 2, it doesn't make sense to have an Attor, but the song that plays in my head when she turns around is the very beginning of Beyonce's Drunk in Love. Like the wow, 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 wow.
It does not fit the scene at all. But yeah.
I think it's more like I'm thinking of like the techniques I would use is like techniques often used when like you're depicting someone drunk in a scene.
Totally,
and so
totally,
it's like,
totally.
It's
Yeah.
But God, and there, I mean, it would have to be slow motion. It would have to be slow motion. Like when we first see that fine ass, like,
God, dude.
And the coloring, like, okay, you know what would be so beautiful? Like I imagine him backlit by this bonfire, right? And like,
because they're kind of like in the woods a little bit, right? So they're like,
yeah.
But
I think his back would be to the bonfire.
Yeah.
So he's backlit, dressed in black, obviously, as he always is. But then like those purple fucking eyes, just really popping, and that smile.
Oh my God,
beautiful, beautiful smile. So, yeah, I think it's my favorite scene of this book. Is like it's just it's so good.
Well, I'm really excited for you to do the reading for next week because the first chunk of the next chapter is their whole conversation. So you get so much more of Rhys, and you get the explanation of his eyes and everything.
Yep.
And it's a pretty magical experience to go through again.
Yeah.
I have a bet, dear listeners, that Ariel is going to choose the beginning of the next chapter as her next directing moment.
Probably.
Just because some of the things they describe about him and certain stuff, I think you're going to really dig.
Although, it is it's going to have to compete with the biting.
Oh, fuck, bro. What a scene.
What
a moment. But yeah, re-meeting Rhys again.
It's like falling in love all over again.
And now that you've told me that Scottish accent thing, fuck.
I'll try and find some TikToks where because I think there's some sounds.
Because I feel like I've only ever heard any of the voice actory stuff that I've heard. It's always a British accent.
It usually is, but I think there might be a few out there in the wild where people have done like a Scottish version. Oh God,
you got to send them to me.
I know.
I'm going to die. Well, on that note.
So next week we're doing chapters 21 through 22. Calanmai, and I don't really remember what else. But we'll find out. If you would like, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and review us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you want to check out our silly TikToks and other content, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Cauldron Save Us Pod. And if you want to pop in and say hello, tell us how excited you are Rhys is finally here.
Tell us about what qualifies an orgy.
Oh my God, yes. If you have
the answer,
answer
that question,
get at us at cauldronsaveus@gmail.com.
Yeah.
I need to know now. I'm
so curious. Just help us, please.
Help us. All right. Well, you go look up those TikToks of Scottish Rhys.
I'll melt in a corner. All right, guys. Well, as always, you're welcome.
And we're sorry. Bye.
Bye.